Thank you so much for joining us. How does it feel to be presenting the film in London?
Well, it's okay.
Anyone
it feels very official. Thank you for coming and being here on a Monday night. The film was born out of a frustration of not seeing British coming of age stories or coming of age stories about young Londoners. When I was the same age as the characters, when I discovered my love of cinema, all the coming of age stories were American. So I always wanted to make a film about young Londoners on a hot summer's day, and for it to play here in a London audience, it kind of feels like coming home. So very happy to be screening here.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. Sasha, when you introduced the film earlier, you described London having a sort of unique energy in the summer. How did you go about capturing that in Last Swim? What were some of the magic ingredients?
So I guess what I wanted to do with the film, I remember many years ago when I was 17, 18, that particularly the summer between school and whatever comes next, for some people it's university, and for other people it's, getting a job, or for others it's traveling. I didn't know it then, but that's probably the closest I felt to my friends from school. And I wanted to tap into that. And also I remember my favorite days were the ones where, after being out all day and all night, I would kind of sneak back in after breaking curfew and get back into bed. And I used to play this fun game where I would try to piece the sequence of things that we did, the order of events. And the really fun and memorable, or not memorable, days were the ones where I couldn't actually remember which friends arrived and how we got from A to B and what form of transport we took. And, we'd be doing things that young people are doing that would affect my memory as well. So, I wanted to create that kind of journey. And of course, from the character's perspective, Ziba, she tries to structure that experience, but of course, you can't. It's very hard to fulfill any kind of plan in life, but particularly when you're young. You always seem to go off piste, and when you do, you stumble on things that you didn't expect that ended up being some of the most fun things that you did. So that's the kind of journey that I wanted to take the audience on. Yeah.
Excellent. And Denzel, I feel like Malcolm, your character, has almost the most unexpected fates in the film. Like, it feels like the twist almost happens on you. What did you think? Did you get the script, and was that a shock to read what happens to him, and what did you think about it and the character?
The funny thing is, you would have seen a lot more happen to him before, because we cut the bit about him getting dropped, like you seeing that. So there was even more that you could have seen them going through. Reading the script, he seems like a very complicated character who's experiencing a lot, but also trying to hide a lot throughout his day whilst he's with his friends, which lots of people do. I just thought it was a big challenge to play, especially when you're having so much fun in summer filming.
Yeah.
So
did you feel any similarities with yourself? Did you like, I understand this character, or did you have to sort of get into a different headspace with him?
I think he's more stoic than me. I'm a little bit more smiley than I'd say he is. And he's more sporty than me. Like, you can really play football, but I don't think I'm that good. So yeah, I had to kind of.
But you drew on the relationship with your own family, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's especially with like stuff to do with like household and feeling like you have a responsibility. So yeah, definitely stuff like that really resonated with me. Yeah.
I love that the biggest challenge was to pretend to be good at football.
Yeah.
Good skill to have.
Yes.
Deba, I'd love to talk to you, because this is your first lead role in a feature film, right?
Yeah.
And you were you 20? Yeah, yes. absolutely a phenomenal performance, and you were 21 at the time.
Yeah,
were you?
like roughly.
Amazing. I know you've done sort of modeling and music videos. Were you always interested in acting? How did it come about?
I think for me, this is something I've said a lot in the past 2 weeks. I never knew what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and quite honestly, I don't even know if this is like the plan for me, if that makes sense, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing with myself. I just love performance, and I love the fact that when you're on set, whether it's like a static like fashion shoot or like a whole commercial or like an actual like feature film, I just love the camaraderie and the team behind everything. And for me, as long as I get to continue to be part of like performances and performing and like playing pretend and like make believe, all that kind of stuff, I think that's what matters to me. I don't know, I just love, everyone's got a little like purpose, and we need everyone, and I love that, and I think that's what makes me so happy to work in these kind of spaces.
Amazing. I really hope this is the thing for you, because you're fantastic.
Oh
so
no, I love it.
please
I love
keep
it. And I love
keep
doing
going.
stuff like this where it's just like, I don't know where the end goal is, but I
Yeah.
love the performance element of everything that I get to do on a day-to-day.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about Ziba, because the film is her and she is the film. How did you work with Sasha here on developing her? How did you construct the character? Was there anything that you brought to her?
Yeah, me and Sasha, we had like loads of chats, loads of meetings about Ziba, creating like what kind of music she'd listen to, even down to like costume and styling, and being a bit more involved with the costume days and everything. But me and Ziba, like, we share things, but we couldn't be more further apart on paper. She's really, really educated. She loves school. I left school when I was 16. So there's like very, very like big differences between me and her on paper. But I guess that the idea of, again, with like Denzel, like family, like her connection to her mum, the fact that she is like a second generation like Iranian-British teenager, like living with just her mum and trying to like navigate all these things. I think there was definitely stuff from my own childhood and my own like relationship with my mum that I definitely brought into her character. But she's a whirlwind. She was really interesting to get to know.
Yeah, brilliant. And Lydia, you kind of your character sort of cements the core friendship circle around Ziba. And it feels like, particularly with your fellow castmate Solly, you have really good chemistry. It feels lived in, it feels like you've known each other for years. How did you go about creating that chemistry? Did you have a lot of rehearsals? How much time did you have with each other before you started shooting?
We had a week of rehearsals, I think. 5 days, maybe 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, but you guys all hung out
We
before
knew,
that.
yeah. So, but also it was just kind of happened. Like it really was pretty instant. I auditioned. I remember going for my recall. I did a tape, and then I went for a recall with Deebs, and it was improv. Like Sasha said, like feel free to like improvise and be really free, and that's kind of historically been my worst nightmare as an actor, as a director telling you to improvise in an audition. But we just sat down on a chair and pretended to be at the top of Primrose Hill, and I just remember feeling like I knew you, and I knew these people that Sasha and Helen had written, and I think when somebody's created a script that is very clear on those relationships already, then your work is almost done, because you can kind of just say the words and it's there because it's very clear who these people are to each other and how they relate to each other, and then it's good casting. It's like a good casting director, and it's a good director that takes the time to find the right people for those characters, and then you just are friends. Like it's sort of, it felt less like work some days and more just like we just got to all hang out, and there was a film being made about us.
Sasha was in the background just really stressed.
No, because we were cast in the autumn of 22. We had just missed our window to shoot, because obviously it's a summer film. So we didn't end up shooting till the spring of 23. We had to wait for the weather to turn good again. But that gave me 6 months to work with the actors. So I spent most of my time with Deba, and then we brought Lydia into the kind of process. And then I would bring the boys into the process as well. I tried to separate the boys from the girls a lot in pre-production. And then, of course, we had a week of rehearsals. When it came to actually shooting, they were thick as thieves. They were just like this gang of mates. And there I was, like a school teacher trying to crack the whip, trying to get them like, Jay, who couldn't be here, and Sally, they've got so much energy. They're doing cartwheels in between takes. I kept trying to tell them to like get serious and save their energy for the camera. And I think you feel that in the film. And they also challenged me on a lot, as a lot of great young actors do. But if there was a line of dialogue that they felt could be more authentically delivered in a slightly different turn of phrase, or if they thought their characters would be doing something different, they weren't shy to kind of tell me what they thought the character should be doing. And a lot of that improv and rehearsal went into the script. And I think when you tell a story about young people, you do need to give them a certain amount of room to take ownership of the characters. And if you do that, they deliver something that's much more authentic than if you have to try a more kind of rigid way of working.
Yeah, it sounds like a lovely way of working. I am going to throw it out to the audience, so if you have a question, get your hand ready. But before I do, I wanted to ask you about approaching the car, because I understand there's fun stories around shooting in the car, but also the car feels so important to the film. It's a bit cheesy to say, oh, it's like another character, but it does feel like an extension of the characters.
Yeah. I mean, it's a road film, so the car plays an important character, and it just everything to do with the car was, from a director's point of view, very challenging and frustrating. The first problem we encountered is Sully, who is the driver. He was cast 9 months before principal photography. We gave him 9 months to get his driver's license, and he failed his driver's license 3 weeks before principal photography, which meant I had to shoot the car scenes in a way completely unintended. We had to get a double in, and then when you shoot in a car, what happens is you have to separate the front of the car from the back of the car. So the kids are never all in the car at the same time. It's either that they're in the back seat, the characters in the back seat, and in the front you've got your crew, and then you have to swap around. And I'm following in a follow vehicle with a monitor and a walkie-talkie, along with the other cast members who aren't in the car. They're feeding their lines through a radio. It was just chaos and carnage. I'm sure it was fun for people in the car, but for me it was just, I was like, stop smoking, or it's like, get serious, or they're all just messing around, and I just couldn't. But I think a lot of the fun that came into their performances actually just ended up being in the film. And I think that's what when you're a young person, and I remember this vividly when I was 17, 18, like when your friend shows up and he's got his driver's license and access to his parents' car, like that's a big moment. And it's a lot of fun, and your friends are arguing over who sits in the front and who's got control of the music. So those scenes were very important. And there are 4 driving scenes in the film, and in each scene you feel Ziba loosening up. She's getting more and more comfortable, and the camera moves more freely as she does to mirror that comfort. So yeah.
It's so fascinating to hear how it was shot, back seat and then shot front seat. As performers, what is that like to be having someone feeding lines and you responding to someone who's not there? It's just crew sat in front of you.
It was like reading like that we were doing car scenes, and like, car scenes, like the realization of how hot and stuffy it was. But it was incredible time just seeing Olan though, like all 6 foot plus of Olan, our DOP, just like folded up into 3-4 ways in a corner. But no, it was a chaotic but like really, really lively time. And like
it was also very hot.
Yeah, we got the weather.
Really
That was what was. Yeah,
it was hot, and the windows had to be up.
And there's no aircon, so.
Exactly. No.
So you got the real sweat on screen.
Yeah, some of it was authentic desperation by the end.
Didn't smell good, did it? After a day of you guys being. Yeah, Waves is a really good recent example. But I suppose the ones that I thought of were the ones that I saw when I was the same age as the characters. So they would have been films like Good Will Hunting, Kids by Larry Clark, more recently, Mommy by Xavier Dolan, Call Me By Your Name in terms of the cinematography and the colors. So a mixture of American and European cinema. I see British film kind of being a bridge between European sensibilities and American films. So yeah, those films for sure. So I guess we kind of introduced the film as a Gen Z coming of age story. And I think that's a really important distinction, the fact that it's a film about this generation of young people. The reason I think it's an important distinction is because I'm a millennial, so that's kind of my lived experience. But the main difference between millennials and Gen Z, I think, is that there's this beautiful sensitivity with young people. You feel it in the film, the scenes in which they check in on Ziba, and they aren't afraid to talk about their feelings, which I think is a very positive thing about this generation of young people. Whereas my generation, millennials, very much graduated from the kind of school of hard knocks, this idea that no matter how hard things get, keep your head down and keep moving forwards, which is a very different philosophy, I think. I think the world isn't particularly welcoming for young people. In terms of the diversity that you referenced, we didn't kind of set out to make a kind of paint by numbers portrait of diverse London. Really, we just wanted to tell a natural story. I think the diversity of the cast came together very organically, but it's also not just a diversity of ethnicity, it's a diversity of social class, a diversity of orientation. So it's a combination of all those things. Do you guys want to talk about Gen Z or any of that stuff? No, I'm talking too much.
We belong in it. Let's expand. No, I think just going back to the freedom that you gave us to be able to kind of speak freely as we can, that really, really helped. But yeah, just to be able to show London in a way where our friendship group, it's real, it's tangible, it's not this like pseudo fake friendship that doesn't exist in real life, that we see a lot of the times in movies and on television. Like from the second that we got together as individuals, as people, we got along, and the fact that like we got along like on the screen as well, I think it just shows that this is what London looks like, this is what the UK looks like in this climate, in this day and age. We're from everywhere, we mix. Like even the fact that like West London in itself for me is the biggest disparity in terms of class and wealth. Like you've got the richest of the rich living next to the poorest of the poor, and that's just how it's been for ages and ages. But it gives both sides like the reality and the realization of having to coincide with each other. And I think that's what this film has done. It's shown people from all walks of life just getting along and doing it together. Yeah.
And in terms of the marketing, I think it's like that's also a sort of generational thing now as well that I don't even really understand. Like it's all social media now, so we just sort of have to hope, I think, that it, like you say, it's a film about friends, and that is something that hopefully everybody recognizes, whether you see yourself in Ziba or whether you see yourself in Malcolm or like Murph. It's like hopefully people just see themselves in those people, and then it's word of mouth. It's obviously none of our jobs in terms of like how it's decided to be marketed, but it's you hope that translates, and that, like you say, people, no matter where you're from or like what age you are or your understanding, that you just watch the film and you think, oh, I see myself there, and I see my relationships even with my friends now, like my friends are in their 30s, and like you hope that people see it and think, oh, I know that feeling, or I want to feel that feeling, and I want to go to the cinema and feel that feeling with a room full of people. And that's the gift of a film, I think. I think there's something that when I first read, I think the Primrose Hill scene for everybody is a special moment, and it was the scene that made me fall in love with the film. But the scene that made me think, oh, Sasha and Helen have captured teenagers here, was the scene when Ziba falls off her bike, and we changed that line so much, can't remember what we landed on in the end, but she calls her something like a stupid bitch. She says to her best friend, like, and that it was just like, it makes me like shiver now. Like you can just feel like everybody's had those moments with their friends when they're teenagers. And that's the wonderful thing about teenagers, is they say like awful things to each other all the time. And somehow they're elastic enough to survive it, and for it to not, for them then to 5 minutes later be laughing and loving each other. And we lose that, I think, sometimes when we get older. We become more rigid, and the relationships become more delicate in a way that they just sort of bounce off each other for the whole of this film. And even with her keeping the secret, I think that's not going to be a problem. Like, but she's not told any of them. It doesn't matter. Like, they love each other, and it's as simple as that. And that moment in particular, I think, in the script was the moment where I just realized, like, oh, they've completely got it, I think. Whatever it is, they've understood it and they've written it. And yeah, I love that moment.
That's a great answer. Denzel, you want to top that?
What was the question?
Was there a scene where you went, "This is my character"?
Favorite scene for your character?
Oh, when I say you crying for me, yeah, it's like for me that's like I feel like that's, you could experience all that in a day and still have some banter at the end. Like be like, oh, my day was shit, but like,
I thought you were going to talk about the scene when you get slapped.
Nah.
That's a big sexy moment. No one.
No. I feel like that line in particular, for me, it just rings out to me. Just for me. If the slap rings out to you,
No.
slap.
Deba, do you have one?
Oh, I think the car scenes for Ziba, like Sasha says, like every car scene she gets progressively more loose. But that first like scene where she takes the first drag of the spliff, I think everybody around her like is excited that this is like there's a new side of their friend that they've never seen before, because she's so rigid. But also there's a sense of worry. So like it's a big step for her to kind of like relax in her step and take this day a little bit more chill. But actually it's like one of the first warning signs to her friends, that I think, to show that maybe not all is like as well, if that makes sense. Like even their reaction, they're like, no way, it's like you're gonna Even when she swims, when she takes that initial leap to go and swim, it's her taking control, it's her taking charge. And that was a really beautiful like moment in which we see this is Ziba's world. She wants to swim today, she's gonna make sure she does that. Yeah.
I think that's what's great about this film, is it's full of so many of these moments. You can turn them over and over. They all have significance and meaning. But Sasha, what is the moment for you that defines the film?
You want me to talk about the slap?
No, I'm joking.
I thought, well, there's so many I could talk about. We can talk about the slap if you want, because I think it's such a powerful performance from you, you know, and I think they all the talent were amazing. Yeah. It was a really challenging scene for lots of different reasons. I remember that when you auditioned, we kind of did a version of it, and I remember when Denzel came in. When you meet a young actor called Denzel, you're like, he better be able to act. But he definitely can, and I think that scene shows the complexity of how much is riding on that moment, and it's such a vulnerable place to be for his character. But the fact that Ziba bears witness to it indicates to her that the world is bigger than what she's going through. So I think it's important for a few different reasons. But yeah, thank you for your question.